I found out my wife wanted to sleep with someone else on a Thursday afternoon. Not through an affair. Not by catching her in some cliché moment, no lipstick on the collar, no whispering phone call behind a closed door. No. She told me. Casually. Over coffee. Like she was asking if we should finally repaint the bathroom. I remember I'd just come home from work, my hands still smelling faintly of metal and machine oil. I work in maintenance at the university, nothing glamorous, but it keeps the lights on. She was already at the kitchen island, tapping away at her laptop, the sunlight catching the edge of her glasses. "Hey, babe," she said, without looking up. "We need to talk." I've been married long enough to know that phrase never means anything good. "Sure," I said, hanging my keys on the hook. "What's up?" She shut her laptop, exhaled, and folded her hands in front of her like she was about to negotiate a hostage release. "I've been thinking about us. About trying something new." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, feeling the stir of something I couldn't name yet. "What kind of new?" She hesitated. I could see her searching for the right words, measuring them before she spoke. "An open marriage," she said finally. Just for a little while. Nothing permanent." I laughed, because I thought she was joking. I thought maybe she'd been listening to one of her podcasts, the kind that talk about disrupting traditional love or whatever. But her face was dead serious. The silence stretched between us, taut as fishing wire. "You want to sleep with someone else?" I asked, slow, careful. Her eyes softened. "I just want to explore a connection I've been ignoring for a long time. It's not about not loving you. It's about being honest with myself." I sat down slowly. The chair felt foreign under me. "Who?" I asked, and I don't know why that was the first thing I needed to know. Maybe I thought it would help me make sense of it. She looked down, then up. "Rachel." My stomach dropped. "Rachel," I said, and I must have sounded like an idiot. "Your best friend Rachel?" She nodded. And just like that, 20 years of marriage cracked like glass beneath my feet. I laughed again, but it wasn't the kind of laugh that fits into a marriage. It was hollow, sharp, bitter. The kind of laugh you let out when your body doesn't know if it should cry or scream. "Emotional," I repeated. "Right. So what we've built, the house, the memories, the damn Costco membership, that's not emotional." Her face twisted. "Don't do that. Don't reduce this to sarcasm. No, tell me what to reduce it to, Jess. Help me out. Because I'm sitting here trying to figure out how the woman I've loved for 2 decades woke up one day and decided she needed to emotionally connect with someone else." She rubbed her forehead and turned away, pacing toward the sink like the movement might help her escape the conversation. "I didn't just wake up one day," she said quietly. "It's been building. You and we've been stuck in routine. You come home tired, we eat, we watch TV, we go to bed. That's not a marriage. That's a schedule. So this is my fault." I snapped. "I didn't say that. But you're implying it. That you went looking somewhere else because I stopped being exciting. Is that it?" Her voice shook slightly now. "It's not about blame. I'm not trying to punish you, okay? I can't keep pretending I'm fulfilled when I'm not." I stood, the chair screeching across the floor behind me. "And Rachel?" "What, she just confessed her feelings one day over brunch and you thought, sure, let's risk my marriage for a crush." "She didn't confess anything," Jess said. "I did. And we haven't done anything, if that's what you're asking." "That wasn't what I was asking. But thanks for clearing it up." The room felt smaller by the second. My chest was tight, my ears hot. There was a humming in the back of my head, like the sound of fluorescent lights about to flicker out. She stepped toward me, slow, cautious, like I was some wounded animal she didn't want to scare off. "I love you," she said. "That hasn't changed. Could have fooled me. I'm being honest with you because I do love you. Because I respect you enough to not sneak around and betray what we have." I looked at her, really looked, and realized something that terrified me. She meant it. She thought this was mature. Kind. Ethical. You want to open our marriage, I said, swallowing the lump rising in my throat, so you can date your best friend, while I sit around playing the role of understanding husband. I want us both to be free to explore, she said. Not just me. You could. No, I cut her off. Don't. Don't try to gift wrap betrayal and hand it to me like it's a choice. She flinched. It's not betrayal if we agree on it. I don't agree on it. Silence. The kind that stretches out like a bad dream, you know it's not over yet, and it might only get worse. She sat down again, clasping her hands like she was praying. I'm not asking you to be okay with it overnight. I wanted to talk about it. I hoped we could try therapy. Or read about it together. Maybe talk to couples who've. This isn't a trend to try on like veganism or hot yoga, I said, colder than I meant to. This is us. I know. Do you? She looked down. I don't know what else to say. Then say nothing, I said, heading for the door. I need to think. Where are you going? I don't know, I said honestly. I just need to not be here right now. I drove for an hour without direction. Just back roads and winding turns and gas station lights I didn't recognize. I didn't want to call anyone. Didn't want to explain. Didn't want pity or advice or even understanding. I wanted silence. Something solid. Something that didn't move beneath me when I stepped on it. Eventually, I ended up in front of my brother Nate's house. I hadn't planned it. I don't even remember turning toward his neighborhood. But when I pulled into the driveway, his porch light was on like it had been waiting for me. He opened the door in sweatpants, holding a baby monitor in one hand and a half-eaten granola bar in the other. Whoa, he said, squinting. You look like you just saw a ghost. I didn't answer right away. Just walked past him into the kitchen and leaned against the counter, trying to breathe like a normal person. You all right? He asked, closing the door behind him. Is it Jess? The kid's okay. No one's hurt, I said. But, yeah. It's Jess. He waited, like a guy who's been through his own share of wreckage and knows not to press. She wants an open marriage, I said finally, the words still foreign in my mouth. He blinked. She what? She says she has feelings for Rachel. Rachel, man. And she wants to explore them while we stay married. Jesus. Yeah. He sat down at the table, dragging a hand through his hair. And you? I feel like someone dropped a grenade in my chest. We were quiet for a moment. Then he said, You want a beer? God, yes. Later, after the second beer, I stared at the ceiling while Nate watched me from across the room. You gonna leave her? I didn't answer. You thinking about it? Honestly. I said. I don't know what I'm thinking. Part of me wants to fight for her. Part of me wants to disappear. Does she want to stay married? She says she does. Says she still loves me. That this isn't about ending things, just expanding them. He raised an eyebrow. That's some millennial word salad. I snorted despite myself. Look, he said, serious now. You don't have to decide tonight. But whatever you do, don't agree to something that'll kill you just to keep her around. I nodded, but the truth was, I didn't know where that line was anymore. What if I said no and she left anyway? What if she didn't, but resented me forever? What if I stayed and ended up resenting her? And what kind of man lets his wife date her best friend just to keep his marriage intact? A weak man. A brave one. Or just a man who's too scared to start over at 47. I didn't sleep much that night. The couch was too small and my thoughts too loud. I kept picturing them together, laughing, holding hands, whispering about dreams and poetry and whatever the hell Rachel had that I didn't. And the part that killed me most. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was that somewhere, deep down, I wondered if Jess was right. Had I stopped seeing her? Had I let comfort replace connection? And if I had, did I deserve this? I didn't go home the next morning. I sat in the parking lot of a diner, sipping burnt coffee from a paper cup and watching the world move on like nothing had changed. People walked in and out, laughed on the sidewalk, held hands. Somewhere across town, my wife was probably texting Rachel. Maybe even seeing her. My phone buzzed. Again. Jess, please let me know you're okay. I didn't answer. Not yet. Because I wasn't okay. And I wasn't ready to lie. Instead, I opened the other message I'd ignored all night. Rachel, can we talk? Please. I stared at it for a while, thumb hovering. I hated that I was even considering it. But part of me needed to know, needed to hear it from her lips. I couldn't make sense of any of this until I did. So I wrote back. Me, where? She replied instantly. My place. Whenever you're ready. I wasn't ready. But I went anyway. Her apartment was exactly like I remembered, minimalist, soft light, one of those places that always smelled faintly of lavender and wood. Jess and I had helped her move in 4 years ago. I'd built her damn bookshelf. When she opened the door, her expression was cautious, guilty, careful, like she was afraid I might scream or break something. Hi, she said softly. I didn't say it back. I just walked past her and stood in the middle of her living room, arms crossed. She shut the door quietly behind me. I'm glad you came. Don't be, I said. I don't know why I did. Rachel sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded in her lap. Can I get you anything? Tea, water. I didn't come here for tea. She nodded. Okay. I stared at her for a long time. The woman who had stood next to Jess at our wedding. The woman who brought wine to every dinner party. The woman I had confided in, trusted. How long? I asked. Her eyes met mine. We never crossed a line, Ethan. That's not what I asked. She sighed. I guess. I started noticing it a few years ago. Little things. The way Jess looked at me when I talked. How I felt when she hugged me. I didn't understand it at first. And now. She hesitated. I didn't plan for this. I never wanted to come between you two. But you did. Yes, she said quietly. I did. I walked over to the window. Her curtains were open. Across the street, a couple was unloading groceries, laughing at something. You know, I said, I always thought you were the safest person in her life. Someone I didn't have to worry about. I was, Rachel said. I mean, I still am. I never meant to hurt you. But you did, I said again. Both of you did. She didn't argue. After a long moment, she said, do you want to know how it started? Really? I turned to her. I think I deserve that much. Rachel nodded, then took a slow breath. It was after my breakup with Lauren. I was a mess, and Jess was there every night. Not just physically, but emotionally. She'd listen for hours, make me tea, rub my shoulders when I couldn't stop crying. And one night I told her she was the only person who made me feel safe. She paused, swallowed. She said I made her feel the same way. And it shifted. The air changed. But we didn't act on it. We both panicked. She avoided me for weeks after that. I thought maybe I'd imagined it. But you didn't, I said. No. A few months later, she came over after you two had a fight, something small, I don't even know what. She was crying. And I held her, and that was it. I knew. Did you kiss? I asked. She shook her head. No. We've never done that. We drew a line. We talked about it, but we were afraid. Afraid of what it meant, what it would destroy. Then why now? Rachel looked at me with something like shame, but not enough of it. She said she couldn't pretend anymore. That pretending was slowly killing her. And she didn't want to lie to you. She wanted to be honest. Honest would have been before the feelings got this far, I snapped. Honest would have been when it first happened. I agree, she said, surprising me. You're right. But people don't always do the right thing when they're scared. And Jess was scared. So were you. Rachel nodded. Still am. I sat down across from her, my voice suddenly low. What do you want from her? I don't want to steal her, Rachel said. I'm not trying to destroy your marriage. But you're in love with her. Yes. And she's in love with you. She hesitated. She loves you too, Ethan. I know you don't want to hear that, but she does. I looked down at my hands, wondering how something so familiar, so ordinary, could suddenly feel like they belonged to someone else. So what am I supposed to do? I asked. Just step aside. Let her have both of us. Share her like she's a timeshare property. No, Rachel said. But maybe this is something you all have to redefine. Redefine. That word sat heavy in my chest. Like everything we had could be rewritten with the right perspective. I can't pretend this doesn't break me, I said. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I know. And I don't know if I can ever forgive either of you. She nodded. I'll understand if you don't. The weirdest part? I believed her. Rachel wasn't trying to win Jess like a prize. She was just as confused. Just as wrecked. And somehow, that made it worse. I left without saying goodbye. I got in my car and drove until I ended up outside my own house, the lights on, the porch empty, the door exactly as I'd left it. Inside, Jess was sitting on the stairs, her eyes red from crying. She stood when I walked in but didn't move toward me. I was scared you wouldn't come back, she whispered. I almost didn't. She nodded. I talked to Rachel. Jess swallowed. I know. You two didn't plan this, did you? Didn't sit around laughing behind my back. Her face twisted. No. God, no. It's been awful. Then why do it? I asked. Why light the match if you were so afraid of the fire? She looked up at me, eyes shimmering. Because something inside me stopped feeling alive. And Rachel, she woke that part up. But that doesn't mean I stopped loving you. I sat on the bottom stair, staring at the floor. What happens now? She asked quietly. I didn't answer right away. Because I didn't know. But I knew what wouldn't happen. We weren't going back to who we were before. That version of us was already gone. The only question now was, could we live with the people we were becoming? For the next few days, we moved through the house like ghosts. Jess and I talked, but only about logistics, dinner, the dog, bills. Like roommates who'd once been something more but now were stuck in a contract neither of them wanted to break first. I slept in the guest room. She didn't ask when, or if, I was coming back to our bed. And I didn't offer. What scared me most wasn't the silence. It was how easy it was to slip into it. Like we'd been rehearsing for this version of our life without even knowing it. On the fourth night, she left a book on the kitchen counter. The Ethical Slut. I picked it up, flipped through a few pages, then put it down like it was made of hot coals. I got it. She was trying. Trying to do this the right way. Trying to show me there were systems, rules, etiquette for this kind of mess. But all I saw was a manual for how to love without consequence. And I couldn't believe she thought I'd find comfort in that. I sat on the back porch that night, a beer in one hand and my phone in the other. I had no one to call. Not really. My brother knew, but even he was running out of ways to say, you don't have to put up with this. And maybe he was right. But there was this tight, stubborn part of me that hated the idea of giving up. Not because I still trusted Jess, that part of me had been rattled. But because I wasn't ready to throw away 20 years without at least understanding how we got here. So the next morning, I asked her something I never thought I would. Do you still want to go to therapy? Jess looked at me like I'd said I wanted to move to Mars. What? Therapy, I repeated. Not for the open marriage thing. For us. Before we decide anything else. She set her mug down slowly, eyes searching mine. Are you sure? No, I said. But I need to talk to someone who isn't you or me. She nodded, tears springing into her eyes. Yes. God, yes. I'll find someone. It was the first time in days I saw her shoulders drop in relief. Our first session was awkward. The therapist, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense tone, started with questions. Easy ones. How long have you been married? What brought you in today? What are you hoping to get out of this? Jess answered first, her voice soft but steady. Clarity. I said, perspective. Neither of us said reconciliation. That word still felt too big. Too far away. We talked about communication, about years of quietly unmet needs. Jess admitted she had been unhappy for longer than she'd realized. I admitted I had been emotionally absent, even when I thought I was doing everything right. But it wasn't until session 3 that the real question came up. So, Ethan, the therapist asked, tilting her head. Do you think you could ever be in a marriage that wasn't monogamous? My mouth went dry. I looked at Jess, who was staring at her hands. I don't know, I said honestly. I never imagined I'd have to ask myself that. That's fair, the therapist said. But if this is the direction Jess wants to explore, it's something you need to consider. Not just whether you could, but whether you should. Jess looked up, her eyes red. I'm not pushing for it. I swear. I just wanted honesty between us. And space to talk about things we never talked about before. I stared at her. You got that space now. She nodded. I know. I just don't want to lose you in the process. That was the thing. She didn't want to leave me. She wanted me and Rachel. And I wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. A week later, something happened I didn't expect. I got a text from Rachel. Rachel, hey. I've backed off. I told Jess not to involve me in anything until you two figure it out. I wanted you to know that. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Me, thanks. She didn't say anything else. And I didn't either. But it was the first time I felt like the ground beneath me wasn't shaking. Maybe, just maybe, we could make space for truth without blowing everything to hell. Therapy became a kind of ritual. Every Tuesday at 6:30, we sat on that couch and unraveled everything we'd buried. Jess cried a lot. I didn't cry at all, until the day we talked about our wedding. The therapist had asked us to bring in an old photo. Jess brought one of us at the altar, me looking at her like she was the only woman in the world. I brought one from our honeymoon, her asleep on my chest, the ocean in the background. What do you see when you look at these? She asked. I didn't know how to answer at first. Jess went first. I see a girl who thought she could love one person forever without ever questioning what she needed. And I see a man who made me feel safe enough to believe that. Then she looked at me. I see someone I still love. Even if I don't know how to love him the same way anymore. The therapist turned to me. And you, Ethan. I stared at the photo in my hand, my throat tight. I see a man who thought he was enough, I whispered. And I don't know what to do with the fact that maybe I'm not. Jess reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Not in anger. Just in sadness. And she understood. That night, we sat on opposite ends of the couch, TV playing something neither of us were watching. I don't want to hurt you, she said. You already did. I know. Silence again. Then she said something I didn't expect. If you decide you can't do this, I'll let go. I won't fight you. I looked over at her, my heart breaking all over again. You don't have to let go. She blinked. What do you mean? I'm not saying I'm ready for all of it. But I want to try to rebuild something. Even if it looks different than it did before. Jess sat up straighter. You mean, you'd consider it? I don't know, I said. Maybe. But not because I want to. Because I want you. And for the first time in weeks, she smiled, not out of joy, but out of shared pain. I want you too, she said. We sat like that, two people on a couch, trying to love each other through something neither of us were prepared for. And I realized then that maybe marriage wasn't about choosing the same thing forever. Maybe it was about choosing each other, even when everything else changed. I wish I could say that after that night, things got easier. They didn't. What changed was subtle, like the moment after an earthquake, when everything's still standing, but nothing feels quite stable. Jess and I were trying, but the weight of what had happened sat between us like a third person at the table. And no matter how many words we shared, that weight stayed exactly where it was. She started sleeping in our bed again. I didn't stop her. But we didn't touch. There was a kind of politeness to everything now. Like we were guests in each other's lives. And yet, I stayed. We both stayed. We kept going to therapy. We took long walks on Sundays without saying much. We cooked together in silence. And in the background of it all was Rachel, the name neither of us said anymore, but both of us carried like a quiet bruise. Then, one night, Jess broke the silence. We were doing the dishes. She handed me a towel and said, out of nowhere, I haven't seen her. I paused, mid-wipe. Okay. She texts sometimes, but I don't respond. I told her it wouldn't be fair. Not to you. Not to me. I didn't say anything at first. I just dried another plate. Then I asked, do you miss her? Jess turned off the faucet slowly, then leaned against the counter. Every day. That hurt. I wish it hadn't. I wish I could have been evolved enough, brave enough, whatever enough to just nod and say, thank you for your honesty. But the truth? It felt like being punched in the stomach. Again. And yet. Thank you, I said, even though my throat was burning. For not lying. She turned to me, tears in her eyes. I don't want to lose you, Ethan. I looked at her. My wife. My best friend. The person who'd gutted me, and the person I still wanted beside me. I don't know what we're building here, I said. But if we're going to do it, I need to know you're here. Really here. She nodded. I am. But she didn't say she'd stopped loving Rachel. And I didn't ask her to. About a month later, we had a breakthrough in therapy. The topic was desire. Not sex, exactly, but connection. Affection. Intimacy. The therapist asked us when we'd last really seen each other, not as spouses, or parents, or friends, but as people with needs, fears, hungers. Jess said she hadn't felt truly desired in years. I admitted I'd stopped showing affection because I didn't know if it would be welcomed anymore. I was afraid of being rejected, or worse, pitted. The therapist asked us to do something simple. Look at each other. Just look. At first, it felt forced. Then, it didn't. There was so much in Jess's eyes. Sadness, yes. But also love. And guilt. And hope. I miss you, she whispered. I'm right here. That night, we touched for the first time in weeks. Just a kiss. Nothing more. But it felt like something cracked open inside me, a door I'd shut too quickly, afraid of what might be on the other side. A few days later, Jess brought up the idea of boundaries. We were sitting on the porch, drinking tea. If, and only if, we ever get to a point where we decide to explore anything outside of us, she said cautiously, I think it would have to be with rules. Structure. Complete transparency. I nodded slowly. I didn't flinch this time. Progress, maybe. What kind of rules? She hesitated. No secrets. No lies. You'd always know who, when, where. And nothing happens without both of us being okay with it. I stared out at the yard. Would Rachel be part of that? She swallowed. Eventually, maybe. But not now. Not until you're okay. And what if I'm never okay? Jess looked at me. Then I choose you. I mean that. And for the first time, I believed her. Not because she was saying what I wanted to hear, but because she said it with the sadness of someone who meant it, even if it would cost her something. We didn't make any decisions that night. We just sat there, two people trying to figure out how to love each other through the mess. But slowly, painfully, something new began to form between us. Not the marriage we had. Not the one we thought we were supposed to have. Something different. Honest. Raw. Sometimes that honesty hurt. Like when I told her I still didn't trust her completely. Or when she told me she still dreamed about what could have been with Rachel. But honesty didn't break us anymore. It became the thing we used to rebuild. One night, weeks later, we were lying in bed, closer than we'd been in months, and I asked something I never thought I'd say. If you could go back, before all of this. Before you told me. Would you? She turned toward me. No. I was surprised. No. Jess shook her head. I think we'd still be in that quiet, numb place. Pretending everything was fine. And I was slowly dying inside. I looked up at the ceiling. You could have chosen not to fall for her. No, she said gently. I couldn't. That should have made me angry. But somehow, it didn't. Because in that moment, I realized something terrifying and freeing. Love doesn't always ask permission. But staying is a choice. Every single day. And she was still here. So was I. We're not fixed. We're not healed. There are days I still wake up and wonder if this version of us can last. Days when I hear her phone buzz and feel a flash of panic. Days when I think about Rachel and what she represents. But there are also days I see Jess laughing at something dumb I said and feel that flicker of warmth in my chest again. Days when we hold hands in the grocery store. Days when I catch her looking at me like I still matter. And that's something. Maybe not the fairy tale. But something real. And for now, that's enough. I always thought healing would feel like moving forward. Turns out, it feels more like standing still in a storm, just learning not to fall over. It's been about 4 months since Jess told me about Rachel. Since the word, open marriage, stopped being a punchline on some podcast and became the elephant sitting on our marriage bed. And every week, I find myself testing the same question. Do I want to save this marriage? Or am I just afraid to lose it? Some mornings, it's both. Others, I think I finally know the answer. And then there are moments, like last Saturday, that throw me back into the undertow. It started with something small. They always do. Jess and I were folding laundry. Just talking about dinner, weekend errands, nothing heavy. Then I saw her glance at her phone, just a flicker, and suddenly I felt it again. That twinge in my gut. I asked, was that Rachel? She paused. Too long. No, she said. But I knew that pause. It was the sound of a half-truth taking shape. Jess. She sighed, set the towel down, and sat on the edge of the bed. She texted. Just once. I didn't respond. I swear. I sat across from her, heart pounding, old anger stirring. I thought we agreed you'd tell me if that ever happened. I know. I should have. It felt small. Like it didn't matter. But it does, I said. Because what you call small is the exact thing that broke us in the first place. Jess covered her face with her hands. I'm trying, Ethan. I really am. I'm not perfect. I looked at her, the woman I loved, the woman who hurt me, the woman still trying to earn back ground she never meant to lose. I don't need perfect, I said. I need honest. Even when it's awkward. Especially then. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry. And the worst part? I believed her. Later that night, I went for a drive. I needed space, not from Jess, but from the noise in my own head. I parked in the lot behind our old favorite diner. The one we used to go to every Sunday before we got too busy. I sat in the car, windows cracked, and just thought about how many versions of ourselves we've been over the years. College kids in love. Newlyweds. Partners. Parents. Now, something else. We weren't the same people who made those vows. We couldn't be. Too much life had happened. And maybe that was the real test of marriage. Not staying the same, but finding each other again when we'd both changed. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. Typed something I didn't even know I felt until the words were there. Maybe the only real vow is this: I'll stay when it's hard, not forever, not blindly, but until I've given us everything I have left. I didn't send it to her. Not yet. But just writing it made me feel lighter. The next week, in therapy, I finally said what had been building in me for a while. I think I need to talk to her. Jess looked up. Rachel. Yeah. The therapist raised an eyebrow. Why now? Because I need to stop filling in the blanks with my own worst fears, I said. I've made Rachel into a villain in my head. Maybe she is. Maybe she isn't. But I can't keep pretending she's just a concept. She's a person Jess cared about. Still cares about. Jess looked nervous but didn't object. So, with her blessing, I reached out. Just one message. Me, hi. This is Ethan. I'd like to talk. Just once. In person. No drama. Just clarity. She replied within an hour. Rachel, okay. Name the place. We met at a neutral spot, a quiet park bench under a huge oak tree, far from the chaos of home. When I saw her, I was surprised. She wasn't what I expected. Rachel was soft-spoken. Polite. Dressed simply. No trace of the homewrecker I'd imagined a dozen times in the back of my head. Thanks for meeting, she said. I just want to understand, I told her. That's all. She nodded. Ask me anything. So I did. I asked when it started. How she let herself fall in love with someone who was married. If she ever thought about how it might destroy everything. And she didn't dodge. She told me they'd grown close slowly. That it wasn't about sex, not even attraction, at first. It was emotional. Familiar. Safe. She told me she tried to fight it. That Jess did, too. But the feelings kept coming. She said she hated herself for it, especially when Jess came clean. But I never wanted to replace you, she said quietly. I just wanted to be seen. And Jess, she saw me. I looked away, jaw tight. She saw you, I repeated. And I disappeared. Rachel didn't respond. Maybe because there was nothing to say. And honestly, I respected that. When I got home, Jess was waiting in the kitchen. She didn't ask for details. She just said, "Are you okay?" I thought about that. "No," I said. "But I'm getting closer." She reached for my hand. And for the first time in a long time, I let her hold it without pulling away. We drew a line after that. Not in anger. Not in fear. But in mutual understanding. No contact with Rachel for now. No open marriage. Just us. Two people who'd been shaken to their core, still choosing each other, not because it was easy, but because it mattered. We called it our chalk line. Something visible. Temporary. Fragile. But real. A boundary we could both see. A space to rebuild in. We wrote it down on a slip of paper. 1. Full honesty. Even when it hurts. 2. No third parties. Until we've rebuilt trust. 3. Therapy stays weekly. No canceling. 4. Date night. Every Friday. No phones. 5. We get one pass each, one bad day when we can be angry, scared, silent. No judgment. It wasn't a solution. It was a truce. And sometimes, that's all healing really is, the courage to stop the bleeding long enough to let the skin regrow. The next Friday, we went out to dinner. Just like old times. We laughed. We talked about books. TV. Nothing deep. Nothing broken. And when the waiter brought the check, Jess looked at me and said, "You know, I never stopped loving you." I smiled, but it was bittersweet. "Yeah," I said. "I know. I just stopped knowing what that meant." She reached across the table, touched my hand. "We'll figure it out," she said. Together. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. Some things don't break with a crash. Some things just fade, slowly, quietly, until one day you realize they're not there anymore. Like the cold that used to sit between us at night. It had been months since Jess first brought up the idea of an open marriage. Months of therapy, of painful honesty, of finding our way back into each other's lives not as the people we used to be, but as who we were now, bruised, cautious, changed. But still here. Still choosing each other. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't scare me, how fragile that choice felt. Like we were walking across a frozen lake, unsure if the next step would hold. It was a Tuesday night when I noticed the silence between us had changed. Not the old silence, the one thick with resentment and things unsaid. No. This was something else. Peaceful. Steady. We were sitting on the couch. Jess was reading. I was scrolling through emails, half present. And for once, I didn't feel like I was waiting for a bomb to drop. I didn't feel like I had to watch her. I just existed with her. She caught me looking and smiled. What? She asked softly. I shook my head. Nothing. You just look calm. I feel calm, she said. That's new. I nodded. It is. We didn't say anything else. We didn't need to. But healing, as I was learning, doesn't move in straight lines. A few days later, I ran into one of Jess's friends at the grocery store. Megan. We exchanged awkward smiles in the produce aisle. She looked at me, tilted her head slightly. You okay? I gave the safe answer. Yeah. We're working through things. Megan hesitated. I wasn't going to say anything, but Jess told me about everything. About Rachel. About the open marriage conversation. I froze. That familiar tightness returned to my chest. She told you. Only after it all happened. She was a wreck. Said she didn't know who she was anymore. I nodded, not really knowing what to say. Megan touched my arm gently. Whatever happens, Ethan, you're not weak for staying. You know that, right? That one hit harder than I expected. Because sometimes I did feel weak. Like I should have walked. Like staying made me pathetic. Like the pain I was carrying meant I'd lost some unspoken battle between self-respect and forgiveness. But that day, in that grocery store, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to believe before. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's work. Hard, exhausting, unglamorous work. And I was doing it. Every day. That weekend, we had one of those rare, raw conversations that leaves your heart sore in the best way. We were at a park, sitting on a bench under a tree, the same spot I'd met Rachel in, though I didn't mention it. Jess was staring at the kids on the playground, a faraway look in her eyes. I've been thinking a lot about shame, she said. I waited. I used to think guilt was the worst part. But guilt you can fix. Apologize, make amends. But shame, it just sits inside you. Like mold. It doesn't go away just because you say sorry. I looked at her. Do you still feel shame? She nodded slowly. Every time I look at you and remember what I almost ruined. What I still might. You didn't ruin us, I said. You cracked us open. And yeah, it hurt like hell. But maybe we needed to break. Jess turned to me, eyes wide. Why would anyone need to break? So they can rebuild. On purpose this time. She let out a long breath, leaned her head on my shoulder. I love you, she said. I love you too, I answered. And I meant it. That night, in bed, Jess asked me a question I hadn't expected. If I ever feel that kind of closeness with someone again, not Rachel, not anyone specific, but if it happens, would you want me to tell you? I didn't answer right away. It was one of those questions with no safe answer. Only honest ones. Yeah, I said finally. I would. Even if it hurts. Especially then. She turned toward me, searching my face. You've changed. I smiled, bitter and amused. Yeah. You have too. Do you like who you're becoming? I thought about that. Sometimes, I said. But I like that we're becoming something. That we're not stuck pretending everything's perfect. She nodded. Me too. Our Friday date nights had become sacred. No phones. No talk about therapy. Just two people relearning how to laugh. That Friday, we went bowling. Something dumb and loud and nostalgic. Jess was terrible. I wasn't much better. But we laughed like we hadn't in years. And later, over milkshakes at a late-night diner, she reached across the table and said, I don't miss her the way I used to. I looked up. Rachel. She nodded. She was a mirror, Jess said. She showed me the parts of myself I thought I'd lost. But you held those parts, Ethan. All along. Something caught in my throat. You just didn't know how to show them to me anymore, she added. And I didn't know how to ask. We were quiet for a long time. Then I said, I want to show them now. If you still want to see. Jess squeezed my hand. I do. I don't know what marriage is supposed to look like after betrayal. There's no manual. But I do know this. Sometimes love isn't about fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes it's about choosing someone in the quiet. In the messy middle. In the slow rebuild. It's about folding laundry together even when you're tired. Answering the hard questions even when you're scared. Making each other laugh when there's nothing left to say. And maybe, just maybe, that's stronger than any fantasy we started with. There's this moment at the end of every day, just before I fall asleep, when everything quiets. No thoughts. No worries. Just breath and weight and stillness. And for a long time, that moment scared me. Because silence was where the truth lived. And for a while, the truth was unbearable. But now the silence feels different. It feels earned. It's been almost a year since Jess asked me the question that changed everything. What would you think about an open marriage? I've replayed that moment more times than I care to admit. The hesitation in her voice. The ache in her eyes. The way the floor seemed to tilt beneath me, like my whole life had been miscalculated. There's a version of this story where I walked away. A version where I threw my ring on the counter and left without looking back. But this version, the one I actually lived, is messier. It's full of stumbles. Awkward silences. Nights on the couch. Fights we didn't mean. Tears we didn't expect. And also, forgiveness. Slow, gritty, unglamorous forgiveness. 6 months ago, Jess and I went on a weekend trip, just the two of us. It was her idea. A cabin in Vermont. No Wi-Fi. No distractions. Just us, alone with whatever we still hadn't said. We spent the first day in near silence. Not angry, just unsure. Like two people waiting for someone to say, it's okay. You can come out now. The storm passed. And then, over dinner, it all came spilling out. Not just about Rachel. But about the years before. The slow drift. The tiny cracks we'd ignored. The things we never said out loud. Jess told me she used to cry in the shower so I wouldn't hear. I told her I used to wait in the car after work just to avoid walking into a house that felt colder than it used to. She told me she stopped trying because she thought I'd already left her emotionally. I told her I felt like a ghost in my own marriage. We didn't fix anything that night. But we finally saw each other again. And that changed everything. You'd think the end of the story would be some grand gesture. A vow renewal. A second honeymoon. Look how strong we are now, Instagram post. But that's not how real life works. Real life is quieter. Subtler. It's Jess kissing my shoulder before getting out of bed. It's me remembering to pick up oat milk because she switched diets again and forgot to tell me. It's her grabbing my hand in the middle of a party because she still gets anxious in crowds. It's us learning how to say, I'm scared, without shame. And more importantly, how to say, I hear you, without defense. The thing is, you don't go through something like this without scars. We have them. We both do. Sometimes I still flinch when I hear Rachel's name, not because I think Jess still wants her, but because the echo of that hurt lives in my body. Sometimes Jess still apologizes for things I've already forgiven, because shame has a longer shelf life than most people think. But we're learning. We're learning that healing isn't forgetting. It's remembering differently. It's saying, yes, that happened, and we're still here. About a month ago, Jess and I took a walk around our neighborhood. It was warm. The kind of night where the sky hangs low and everything smells like cut grass and possibility. She stopped suddenly and said, do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't told you the truth? I looked at her. You mean if you had just kept it secret? She nodded. I thought about it. About what we might have become. I think we would have rotted, I said. Slowly. Quietly. We'd still be married. But we'd be strangers. Jess looked down. Sometimes I wish I'd handled it all differently. I do too, I said. But if we hadn't hit bottom, we never would have started over. She reached for my hand, and I let her take it. Not because everything was perfect. But because it was real. And after everything, real was more than enough. People ask me sometimes, the few who know the whole story, how did you forgive her? And I never quite know how to answer. Because forgiveness isn't a moment. It's not a switch you flip or a line you cross. It's 1,000 small choices. It's choosing to stay present when it would be easier to shut down. It's choosing to believe her even when old fears whisper otherwise. It's choosing to trust the future more than you fear the past. It's not easy. But it's worth it. Because in all the chaos and pain, we found something rare. Honesty. Depth. A kind of love that isn't about never hurting each other, but about showing up anyway. Last week, Jess gave me a card. No occasion. Just folded paper, handwritten ink. Inside, it said, "You stayed when I would have understood if you left. You held space for me when I didn't deserve it. You became someone new, and you gave me the chance to become someone better. I don't just love you, Ethan. I admire you. I see you. And I'm sorry it took me so long to say it this clearly." I sat with that card in my hands for a long time. Then I took out a pen and wrote beneath her words. We broke. We healed. We grew. And I wouldn't undo a second of it if it meant losing what we have now. So here we are. Still married. Still learning. Still choosing. Not because we forgot the pain. Not because we pretended it didn't happen. But because we remembered it, and decided to build something better anyway. Every day, we draw new chalk lines. Some of them get smudged. Some of them get redrawn. But every one of them reminds us. We are here. We are trying. And we are not done yet.